Salutations, Dufos. This is your fabulous leader, the Queen of Shade, coming at you with another special presentation. Moving right on along, talking to amazing people with amazing stories, amazing lifestyles. They uplift me, they inspire me, I uplift them, I inspire them. And with having said all of that, I have someone special that you need to meet. This young man is quite remarkable. I've been following him for a long time. He didn't know that, but now he does. But we're going to talk to him. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Micah Marquez. Did I say it right?
You sure did. Thank you.
Micah Marquez. Okay. How are you? Now we can do it. How are you?
Awesome. I am awesome. It is so great to finally and officially meet you. You are so radiant in energy. So I'm excited. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is this is it. We've been communicating for a while.
Yes.
But this is the FaceTime. This is our first official FaceTime. So what are you doing today? What's up? What's going on? Where you at?
I just woke myself up from a nap because I got started early this morning at 8 a.m.
Okay.
And just working my ass off. There's just, I'm a full-time entrepreneur at this point, and it is just 10 times more the workload.
Yeah.
It's also more rewarding, but it's also tax season. So now that's a new thing that I'm like, oh, okay. I have 1099s to send out to a lot of people. So that fun stuff. That's all. Yeah.
Okay. Well, since you started with business, tell me, what do you do?
So yes, full-time entrepreneur. I am the founder of an amazing organization called Deviant. It is all for Black and brown queer folks. Really, as I just rewrote it, the pitch today, it is really taking a step beyond the historical respectability politics that were used by Black folks in the civil rights movement. We know that barred queer people from its movement because we still were ostracized from respectable society. So
Still are.
Yeah, right, still are. But yeah, Deviant really just does a careful job to be radical and moving Black and brown queer folks towards self-love. So we have 3 major core values: sex positivity, body positivity, and drug safety, that really allow us to kind of sit in the reality space in our community and just be emboldened from that perspective. And really, we're asking society to change and not really ourselves. The only change that we're asking within ourselves is to be prideful in whatever the fuck it is we're doing so that we can make conscious decisions.
So what sparked this in your life?
Oh, child. It was really a journey of self-love. I was just reflecting with someone this weekend. When I was in my younger 20s, I wanted nothing but love, a thing that seems to be resounding for most of humanity. But I think especially as Black folks, Black and brown folks being born in a society, we don't see ourselves in the media and these narratives they paint for love stories. Being a queer person and also not seeing anything beyond Prince Charming and a Cinderella princess at the end of the day, I was like, okay, where does my love story kind of fit in this picture? And my younger 20s were just, I look back at younger Micah and I'm like, I feel so bad for that guy because I wanted love so badly and was never able. I made a lot of sacrifices, trying to obtain that love. And I wish that I had, and I do have who I am today, but I wish that who I am today, I had back then, that example to tell me that, hey, it's okay to be sexual. It's okay to love your body as you are. It's even okay to experiment with different things. You are no pariah of society, but rather you are perfectly made and you are going to obtain that love that you want, but it begins with self. So really that's where that journey began, was just me taking some time to just learn who I am, learn that God didn't make a mistake on me, and learn that I was perfectly made. And I was like, you know what? I want everybody in our community to understand just that and to feel that, because my whole life changed when I had that realization.
Yeah. Did you grow up in a religious home?
Of course, yeah. My dad is actually a minister of a mega church. I was used to some 6,000 plus people having their eyes on me every weekend. But yeah, really Monday through Sunday as a preacher's kid, these expectations, they just kind of soar over your life. it's like Hawkeyes on you.
It's the same. It's the same for children that are born to celebrities.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's the same experience. Just correct me if I'm wrong. Deviant, do you do events as well?
We do events as well. Yes.
Okay, because I've seen a couple people say they went to Deviant.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
you? That was you?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. No, I just wanted to make sure. I'm like, okay, because I've seen this name rising. You know, I pay attention.
Yeah, we got to get you there one day.
Oh
Absolutely.
my God, yes, yes, yes. But we're gonna need hella security because I don't speak to nobody.
I'll be a security.
We're gonna need hella security. I mean hella security. Like I ain't playing. I ain't playing with, listen, I ain't playing. But anyway, no, but anyway, I mean, you know, it's so funny. Like you say that, you know, you wish you had you back when you were, you know, younger, but in all actuality, what you went through helped you to change the world. You see, and it's unfortunate because I'm one of those people too. It's unfortunate that you have to go through the hardship yourself, but so many beautiful things, case in point yourself and me, so many beautiful things get born from that adversity, get born from that hurt, get born from that misunderstanding and that need to be oneself. That is something, and I was, my question to you with that, with having said that is, how do you find that going over with the Black community? Being so religious and being so homophobic and being so queerphobic, I'll say. How does that work?
Oh man, you mean the Black community as a whole?
Like, I mean, if you do, I mean, well, this is the thing. Do you do here? So let me narrow it down. Do you do exercises that put queer people in front of straight people, basically?
Not yet.
Okay.
That is coming. That is coming. Again, right now where Deviant is really just emboldening our community. Okay. So Black and brown queer folks, I know that we face so much adversity, even from Black and brown cis het people, you know.
Right.
So right now it's all about emboldening ourselves. You know, we lack the sex education that they get in school. We lack the support systems and mentors that they get growing up for different workplace environments and just life in general. So right now, Deviant is really focused on just creating and curating that environment for Black and brown queer folks. But I will say that on our 3 core values, we have all intentions of extending it to cishet people and becoming a bit more inclusive of what they're now considered allies. We actually intend to make environments where they can also learn the practices of sex positivity so they can understand the importance of consent, so they can understand things like body positivity and that they are also perfectly made. There's so much also lacking from our Black and brown cishet brothers and sisters that they can, you know, stand to learn from us. Yeah. But first, I think, you know, that love begins with ourselves. Like, it's going to be hard for us to preach that to them, especially when, you know, them who are our family members and our friends are so used to condemning us. You know, we've gotta be ready to defend ourselves first, you know, before we're asking them to come and accept us. Like we're a step beyond asking them to accept us.
Get this, I said the question wrong, and I can admit that.
Oh, sorry.
But what you said at the end was actually what I was going for. I was actually going for, okay, Deviant is emboldening and empowering, you know, queer people. What I meant was in the Black community around you, not necessarily including them, but I mean, does Deviant face the opposition? Because you said it, sisters, brothers, father's a preacher, you know, like, are you guys having problems with the Black experience? And you started to touch it at the end. I love the answer you gave. I mean, one day it would be great to extend to allies, but yeah. I too am a person where with my business, I'm for my community. I'm just going to say that. And I'm for my community. I have no problems expanding, but I'm for my community. So that's where I focus my attention. That's why this is here. You know, I've interviewed heterosexual men and women, but for the most part, these lessons are for my people. So we got that. We understood each other. We're on the same page as that. But I meant, does Deviant face the opposition? And you said it. I mean, because you know, you're emboldening yourselves, us, the queer community, but yet we still have to hear our father's mouths, hear our mother's mouths, hear our sister's mouths. Oh, that's not how you were raised. You know, all of that. How are you guys handling the opposition, basically?
Yeah, it's hard. Every day is a battle, but it's one that I know personally I can fight better with a means of self-awareness and self-knowing. And I do, you know, want to embolden the rest of our community with that first. You know, I'm used to fighting those battles. You know, being a PK. You know, I'm used to, you know, getting praise now within our community, but still going home on holidays and having to hear, you know, the mouths of some family members and people I once called friends, you know,
Yeah.
they're both, you know, they're still entrenched in condemnation.
Yeah.
But I know that, you know, I can withstand that because I know myself now. They can't tell me about God because I'm like, no, no, no. God loves me. Like God loves me, you
Yeah.
know, but not until I have that relationship with God and that awareness of self, can I really do that. And so, you know, that adversity certainly still comes. I will tell you, even more so than, you know, from my personal experience than having to deal with it from family and friends, because I think they're so used to me now.
Yeah.
Um, Most of the adversity that I face is actually within our community. Like, and it's not that I think um that they're truly looking to like tear at Deviant or tear anything down. It is the battle of, you know, letting someone know that they are perfectly made and that they are worthy when they've had a lifetime in a world full of people telling them that they are not. And so, you know, it's our community that looks at like sex positivity and they're like, wait a minute, sex, but I'm queer. And the only way I was able to like get along in life was telling my, you know, cishet brothers and sisters that I'm not having a lot of sex. You know, so they look at that and they're like, no, I can't be, you know, sex positive because is that equal to promiscuity? And if it is, then, you know, that's gonna distance me from normality in society and what I need to survive. And they look at body positivity and they're like, oh, that's too sexy, but what if people touch you and it's really those feats and those fights that I do more often, and reminding people that they don't have to run away from who they are to be loved, to be worthy of human dignity. And you know, I do so um, more with those who are most vulnerable in mind. You know, I remember when I was 18 years old and I got disowned. Um, I remember people just thinking that, you know, my whole life was going to be, you know, people preying on me. They're like, oh, here's this like young, newly out gay boy, and you know, he's, you know, attractive, and you know, he's out here with no guidance, and this, that, and the third. And I remember, I mean, I had, you know, partners who would, you know, threaten uh, to try to get me in line, you know, if you will. But all these ways, people tried to like train me into who they thought I had to be in order to survive. And all those terrible experiences really led me back to this ultimate truth, which is that like my body is my own, my life is my own. I am and always have been worthy of human dignity, no matter who saw value in me. That value was always there. And so I always kind of think about that young, again, Micah, and not just me, but also the people that I encountered, those other young Black and Brown queer folks who, you know, some of them were sex workers, you know, some of them were doing things like survival sex in order, you know, to survive. And it's like, you know, we've got to instill certain rhetoric to reaffirm human dignity, no matter what your profession is, no matter how you're dressed, no matter how you look. You know, it is so important that we continue to uplift, not with those who are already in power in mind, but rather with those who are most vulnerable in mind. So,
You
yeah.
know, the reason why I asked that, and you hit the nail on the head, Micah, is because I'm the same way. My biggest fight is with the community. My biggest fight is it's and I heard it when you first started talking. It's also like it's the yes, I've had a lifetime of being indoctrinated that, you know, this is what people will say in our community. lifetime of being indoctrinated. You know, my mother, my father, my sisters, my brothers, my friends. Yes. And they give us, they're difficult because of it. But it is also, how should I say this? It is also that our community is very insecure because of not having a place, especially being Black, because there's no class system for Blacks. There's a class system for Anglo-Saxons and Caucasians. There's a class system. Blacks don't have no class system, which is why when you meet a man, you don't know whether he's rich, poor, in between. There's no class system for us. So you're praying to God, you meet a good Black man and that he has a good job. That's usually what happens. But I find that the problem in the community with people like me and people like you doing things to change the narrative is that because they have low self-esteem and they're insecure, they have a problem with your confidence.
Yeah.
They have a problem with the fact that you love yourself and you move differently. You move like you love yourself and like the world should love you too. You know, I get that a lot because one thing, as the Queen of Shade, the brand started to grow, there were hundreds of comments about your confidence, your confidence, your confidence. And I even had comments because this is the trans illusion. I'm not transgender. This is the trans illusion. I cross-dress. So what happened was when I come up out of this and I'm not as fiery as this character puts out, part of the brand, to you know, and she's doing that not only to empower her community, but to also tell the heterosexual community, you will not treat me this way. I will not allow it. You know, so that's what's happening. So then when I come out of this and I'm just me and I'm more of a recluse and I smile more and I'm, you know, I'm bald head and, you know, people were asking me, do you have borderline personality? And I'm like, no, I'm bipolar, but I don't have borderline personality because it was such a switch. But that's what I was asking because they tend to have a problem with someone in our community. Our community has a problem with people that have learned to love themselves. People that have learned to appreciate their bodies, their minds, their souls. They have a problem with that. And because they can't figure out how to arrive there themselves. So that's that's where Deviant comes in. So do you guys offer like classes and seminars? You're based in Atlanta, right?
Well, I'm based in New York City.
Oh, New York. That's what you did say, New York. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So Deviant runs currently in Atlanta and DC once a month. It also runs in New York. It's supposed to be running in New York once a month, but we're planning this like huge relaunch in March or April of this year. So we'll be running again throughout the entire East Coast, Atlanta, DC, and New York once a month. But yeah, I'm so sorry. Your question, it eluded me for this last part. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just basically saying that, you know, do you offer classes or you know, I want to kind of give our viewers, because you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, and I brought you on here to show you off. I brought you on here to say that I'm very proud of who you are. I'm very proud of what you're doing. And though we've never spoken, I've watched you for years. And I'm proud. I remember when you were modeling. I see you working with other models. I'm proud of who you are. So this is an opportunity to showcase that pride and to let people understand, you know, because first of all, entrepreneurship is not easy. Like you said, I work 100 hours a week so that I don't have to work 40 for someone else. So, you know, and everything. One of my interviews this earlier today, we actually had to reschedule it because he was having Wi-Fi issues and he kept dropping, like it kept going out. So we rescheduled for Friday, but the interview was going really well. That's going to be a good one. But, you know, but basically, he was, you know, as I was talking to him, he was talking kind of about these issues about, you know, him. I didn't know. Okay, so get this. I actually introduced him to the man that got him into sex work. He was only 18 years old, newly 18.
Mm.
I had no idea,
Yeah.
because the man I knew had connections to that vein, but
Mhm.
he also had connections because he held a doctorate, and he was
Mm.
affluent, you know.
Yeah.
He saw me, and I was explaining to this young man, and the interview will come out on Friday, teasing it here, sorry. But yeah, but what happened was I was offered a whole different direction. I was sent in a whole different direction.
Yeah.
It was modeling. I had just come back from Paris. It was, you know, you need to meet this booker in New York, and you need to meet this, and you need to meet that. And the young man that I introduced and brought in with me, it was, well, you would be good over here.
Mm.
And he was only 18 years old, and I didn't find that out until today. And it really bothered me. But he said at the end of the day, it was his decision. But my thing is, who's really grown at 18, Micah?
Yeah. No, not at 18.
Not at 18. To be honest, you're not really grown until you're 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
30. So, you know, as we were talking, he started to cry because he said he felt like his dreams had been snatched or stolen from him, and he felt like he had been thrown to the wolves. And he said, if the man couldn't help me the way that I needed to be helped, don't throw me to the wolves, let me go.
Mm.
And that was deep, because I met him at a time where I was coming into myself. Now, mind you, I've spoken about this before. I've been celibate now 9 years. This year will be 10 in August. But I had a very active sex life about 14 years ago. And I met him. He was newly 18. I met him at that time, and we clicked. But I'm not necessarily monogamous.
Mhm.
I'm not. So even being in the public eye and having notoriety and being able, and I'm just going to say this, building my platform to being able to have anything I want.
Yeah.
It also goes with the men.
Mhm.
So, you know, but it bothered me that he said some of the same things. He didn't have anybody to show him the way. He didn't have anybody to show him the ropes. And Micah, they're getting younger and younger.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
see, that's where
Yeah.
it ties into you, because they're getting younger and younger. I have a
Mhm.
baby that I know that contracted HIV when he was
Mhm.
15. He's had it for 15 years. He just turned 30.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he said, actually, he's older than 30. And he said he's been HIV positive longer than he's been alive.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. The statistics that the CDC released now states that 1 in every 2
Uh-huh.
Black men who have sex with men it will contract HIV in their lifetime, and 1 in every 4 Latinx men who have sex with men will contract HIV in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a reality, you know,
Mm-hmm.
at this point in our community, even more so than other elements like, you know, diabetes or sickle cell.
Mm-hmm.
It is, you know, HIV is a reality that we as Black and brown queer folks need to both accept, but also talk about.
Yeah.
And I say accept because we really need to destigmatize it. You know, like we really need to make certain that people know what resources are available to them.
Yeah.
I have so many people in my life who I love who are positive,
Yeah.
and I at every point in every turn want them to know that they are worthy of love.
Yeah.
That, you know, regardless of that, you know, one circumstance and situation, that is no longer a terminal sentence. You know,
Yeah.
our association with HIV as a queer community, I know it's scary when we consider the 80s when there weren't, you know, medicines afforded to people for them to live long lives, but that's no longer true.
Right.
And even like us as Black and brown people with this, the down low culture that is
Yeah.
so prominent in our community, that also has gotten HIV exposed with cis het women, you know.
They're the highest. They're the highest to have it. Women,
Yeah.
Black women.
Um, you know, again, like as a community, we just really have got to both accept this as a reality and destigmatize it so we can like have everybody educated, get them the resources that they need. Because, you know, also with PrEP being afforded to us now, there's no reason that we still even have to be contracting HIV.
Right.
But even if you were to contract it, it's no longer a life sentence. You know, there are so many opportunities for people to live thriving, healthy, wonderful lives, still be partnered, still find love. There are tons of people out there who will still love HIV positive people, myself being one of them.
Mhm.
And I just think that is so important to get that message out there of, empathy for folks who are positive, because it's such a prevalent reality in our community. We can no longer,
It can't be ignored.
it can't be ignored. It can't be ignored. It can't not be talked about. I know it's
It's the shame. It's the
mm-hmm.
shame, because that's the thing, it's so crazy. I'm HIV negative in my life, but I've been with men. I've never had a boyfriend, but I've been with men that were HIV positive, and provided that they were on their medication and they were non-detectable.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I used, condoms and things like that. Like, to me, it's so funny because I have men in my life that I absolutely love, whom are positive, and that doesn't mean anything. Like, like it doesn't turn me off from a beautiful human being.
Right.
And,
Right.
and the crazy thing is that, when I was growing up, or trying to grow up, I had an uncle who was a prophet, and he kept telling me that it was it was it was skewed, because the man was very jealous of what he saw happening in my life. Before any of this happened, he knew, you're going to be successful, you're going to be famous, you're going to be wealthy, you're going to live in another country. He would tell me these things, but then in the same breath he would tell me, oh, but God said you're going to get HIV.
Mm.
Yeah. And it scared the living Jesus out of me. Like it did. Like, I was so worried. And then it seemed like, and just to put this statistic, because they said the statistic 14 years ago, it's the same statistic, 1 and 2. So for Black men, it really was prevalent, and it scared me, because then I would sometimes I had a very erratic sex life. I would either have a lot of sex, and then I would have no sex. It was extremes. I would have a lot, and then I would have none. And this last time of me going celibate for now 9, almost 10 years, it was to foster my career. This was the only reason, was to focus on my career, focus on being an entrepreneur, and get this brand off the ground, because I saw an opportunity. I looked at the market. You, as an entrepreneur, you look at the market and you say, what's missing? So I realized, I looked at the market, I saw what was missing, and I filled the void. That's all I did. I'm an entrepreneur, I filled the void. But it was unfortunate, because I felt like I was running from it. And then I would, because our community is, I had one baby I interviewed, and he was HIV positive, and he does like work, care work and treatment work. And he said this, he said, what we don't understand is we think city to city. He was like, no, we're all in the Black community, we're all sleeping with the same men. He was like, it goes from New York to DC to Atlanta to Florida, back to Philly. Like, he was like, all these men you think you just meet in this state, no, they're traveling. We're all sleeping with the same men. And I was like, wow, it was a different perspective. And he was very broken too, because I was actually talking about a song I wrote about my experience called Broken Condom. And that's the name of the song. I wanted it to be jarring. And the song is 9 minutes and 36 seconds long. And I wrote it from the standpoint of, why didn't you tell me you had HIV? You ruined my life. You infected me. That's what I wrote it, like, from that standpoint, even though it didn't happen that way. But I was telling him about it. You destroyed my life. You didn't tell me, and you took my life. And he started crying. I was like, that's my story. That's what happened to me. And I was like, on camera, I was just like, but long story short, my uncle ended up contracting it himself. And that's the thing. Sometimes, now with me being a shaman, an oracle, a prophet, and a seer, and a healer, I don't wish bad on people. But to see him and to see the difficulty that he's had, with it, he's had a lot of difficulty with it. No one talks about the other things that come along with it, the hip, because you're taking medicine and different things like this, hips getting brittle and breaking, and hip replacements and all of these things. There's a lot. What I'm saying, Micah, is there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover. And in so needing it to be covered, advocacy is quite important. But like you said, this is not Deviant's focus, because Deviant is focused on the entire queer community, not just those living with HIV, even though they are included,
Right.
I'm going this way with you because I'm very, very thankful for your desire to help. I've been following you for a long time, and I've always seen you, even when you're modeling. You were modeling and you're doing different things, and I see your collaborations. And I forget his name. He comes to my Mr. something. It comes to my mind. You know what I'm talking about. But he's an amazing man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him to interview. We'll see. But yeah, he's an amazing man. So I've seen you work just around the community and do other things. And then for me to find out that Deviant belongs to you, I'm just like, that is just amazing. Because like you said, I feel like, okay, because see, there's a difference. There's a difference from being in the church and just being a member. There is a veil that is pierced when you're the PK. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about. They always say, oh, well, PK children are the worst. No, it's just that church is a business. Mm-hmm. And what we don't understand is, as the parishioners, we come and we're on this side of the curtain.
Right.
And then the preachers and the PKs and all of the other, the in families are on the other side of the curtain. Mm-hmm. So they usually do more or know more or understand more or don't have so much of a fear about doing certain things because they understand, oh, my dad's gonna get up and preach. Yeah, but we're human, even if they hide it from the world or hide it from the church, there are many things that are dealt with inside the veil. So I'm just so happy that Deviant is, in formation.
Thank you. You asked me a while back if we offer like different programs like counseling and mentorship. And while we don't offer direct counseling and mentorship just as yet, at our events, we have these things called hydration stations. And there we actually partner with local health and wellness clinics in the Atlanta area when we're there, DC when we're there, and New York when we're here. At the hydration stations, party goers can go and get free water, but they also have access to those local health and wellness clinics that are actually staffed by those clinicians. They also get those information and resources that they need for sexual health, for mental health, and wellness. And so like that is always really important to me. Outside of the actual parties, we have these events that we're now starting up. We did our first pilot in Atlanta called Cocktails and Combos. And that's for folks who just like aren't really ready to party yet, but they can have really intentional conversations like this. But there's typically a panel, myself, and now we're going to be onboarding another host, a co-host. And we choose a topic. Our last one was just on undoing shame, our pilot.
Yeah.
And it was just such a remarkable event because folks were able to come and have a cocktail. And then we really talked about how shame comes up in our lives, where it begins, how it impacts our love, how it impacts us as a community interacting. And then, the group within our room were able to ask questions to our panelists, and we were able to have so much intentional, and just impactful conversation that like really was eye-opening for me. Everyone left there telling me that, that's my calling. I need to be doing that. So I'm excited about it. I was so nervous before getting up there on that stage. It was almost a room of 200 people. But when I did open my mouth, it did feel like I was in a place of purpose. So I'm excited to continue that. We're looking at partnering with a few other organizations to do that once a month. And then the other things we have are Deviant TV. It is a broadcast that we piloted here on Instagram. And that pilot actually gained us a partner. So now we're in the editing phase of the official broadcast that is so much fucking work. Oh my God. I had no clue. It's like,
congratulations though.
Thank you. Thank you. But and I mean, we have so many special guests who are subject matter experts going to be on Deviant TV. Definitely going to be trying to get you on season 2, like ASAP. And last but not least, we have our card game called Keep It 100. And Keep It 100 just has never have I ever questions and then discussion questions. All of them center around life experiences of Black and Brown queer people. We realized that also outside of our families and even in our friend groups, we don't even get to joke and talk about our life experiences oftentimes as Black and brown queer folks. So we created this card game that we can be intentional about talking about our life experiences. Like, we can talk about the trade, we can talk about being positive and when the appropriate time is to come out to a partner. We can talk about topping and bottoming, being versed, is it a real thing? The bisexual, there's so much that we can actually talk about with this card game in a more enjoyable and insightful way in our own safe spaces at home. So those are the different ways that Deviant currently exist. So when we say Deviant Events, yes, we have like parties, cocktails and combos, the broadcast officially coming soon, and then the card game. But yeah, like, Deviant is intended to like really change culture in a way that centers Black and brown queer people. Like, we're not going to have the excuse of like not seeing ourselves, not hearing about you know, what our realities are, that we're going to make that a thing of the past.
Yeah. You know, what's so funny, you said when I got up on stage, it was very natural when I opened my mouth. And I thought to myself, of course you would, it's in your blood, it's your family business.
Thank you.
You know, but even further, but even deeper than that, you're anointed, as am I. And, you know, people try to tell you how God wants you to use your anointing. And then you have to tell them, no, he wants me to use it this way and over here. And do this and do that, because, you know, it's so crazy because nobody's speaking to our community. That's how I was able to become who I am. Nobody was speaking to us. That was when I, as an entrepreneur, I looked at the market. What's missing? Nobody is catering to us. So if no one's catering to us, fill the void. And I like the name. I like the name Deviant because I've always been deviant and defiant by nature. I've always been. Always been. And deviant just means, you know, difference. You know, it just, you know, it's different. It's, you know, it's not the norm. It is, I question more. I ask questions. You know, there's a lot of meanings for deviant. To you, what does deviant mean?
So when I think about deviant, I think about who Christ actually, you know, you just mentioned, brought it back to the pulpit, right? I think about who Christ actually hung out with. You know, we have our own perceptions of who Christ was based on what people have told us. But if we take the time to actually read ourselves, like, Christ hung out with the prostitutes, Christ hung out with the sick. And, you know, like, Christ didn't hang out with the rich. Christ didn't hang out with the tax collectors. Christ didn't hang out with the religious folks, the scribes. Those are the people that actually crucified Christ. So when I think about Christ and the folks that Christ uplifted and cared about and nurtured and spent time with, I think about deviants. I think about those who were socially and sexually rebellious. And Christ came and said, you know what, as I die now, consider the letter of the law fulfilled. It's done. Accept me, we're good. Y'all don't have no more price to pay for your sins. It's done. I love you. Now your only job is to love each other love each other as you want to be loved, right? And love the Lord your God. Love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, whoever that may be. And it's just crazy to me that our religion, this religion of Christianity, has gotten so far away from who Christ actually was. So when I think about deviant, I do think about it as like the real church, you know, the people who have been cast aside, who have been ostracized, who have been put in these boxes and looked at as pariahs of society. And I intend to like censor them. And, you know, funny enough, my name, Micah, actually means who is like unto the Lord. So who's supposed to be like Christ. And, you know, it's funny. I've tried, you know, most of my young adult life, I was running away from the church. If you can't hear it in my voice, I was just like, fuck y'all, like, I can't do this. And it was very much, it was fear, it was anxiety, it was also just knowing that if I were going to live at all, you know, because I tried to commit suicide in high school, you know. So for me, it was like, if I'm going to live at all, I got to get away from these people that constantly make me feel like, and tell me that I'm going to hell. I got to get away from them. And it's funny that as I, you know, really came to this place of self-love, a large part of it was my relationship with God, and God actually consistently reminding me that God made no mistakes on me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the whole process was questioning. I was like, you know what? Why is God always presented as this? Is Christ is always presented as this white man? And come to find out, no, Christ is, in Africa and parts of Northern Africa, well, Christ would have never looked like that. And I was like, why is it always, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost? I'm a feminist. Like, where does the mother, the sister, like, where does all this come into play?
Yeah.
And come to find out, in my relationship with God, God has no gender. God has no, like, there's so many things that are products of man to establish power.
Yeah.
And what greater power than your belief system in telling you that your God is a white cisgender man?
Yeah.
At every turn, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, all these things, like, and when I finally became, conscious of self, in love with God, and I learned to listen and align with the universe. And, I always say that I have, God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I listen. Literally, I spend most of my day quiet and silent. I listen twice as much as I speak.
Yeah.
And in coming to know God, I realized all of God's love for us as a community. And I'm just like, it's crazy that I feel like, the seat that I keep getting set in is back in this space of like, it what feels like ministry, but in a very obscure way, because I'm never to conform to respectability politics, never to, our third core value is called drug safety. And that's with all intentionality, because it's like, I know that people are afraid of the idea of drugs, and I know that it's burdened so much of our community, but if we don't start talking about it in a real way, how will we ever overcome it? How will we take back power and agency over our souls? We need to decriminalize so that we can actually talk about what's going to help people. Regulate, get people the information they need so that they know how to dose properly, so that they know what it's going to do to them. Some personalities are addicted and don't need to touch certain things, but we'll never know that if we just criminalize everything and consistently put people in dark alleys and dark corners to experiment. And I just feel like, as much as it is that I've tried to run away from the idea of ministry in my life, it just keeps on calling me. And I'm just like, I was sitting there on that.
It is. What you're doing, what I'm doing, it's ministry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
When Jesus hung out with the sick and the prostitutes and those that were deviant, when did he ever try to change them?
Never.
He said, I'm going to do y'all a favor.
Mm-hmm.
I want y'all to have a relationship with my Father.
Mm-hmm.
Because my Father is not as bad as people tell you that he is.
Mm-hmm.
Not as rigid as these scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees are over here saying. Mm-hmm. So I know y'all love me, but I came here to die, not to change you, but to make sure you had an opportunity to know my Father.
Right.
That's the only reason he died. That's
right.
the only reason. What's to bridge a gap.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
He died. And that's the problem with people. They, well, he's this or he's that. And you just said it. Do you know how many times a Black man is in, or Black people are mentioned in the Bible? Twice. The man that carried Jesus' cross for him to die was Black. And in Genesis, Nimrod, a mighty hunter, was from Cush. Cush is Ethiopia. Those are the only 2 places a Black man is mentioned. So I've always had a problem, because my thing is, we were slaves. They lied to us about everything else, stripped us of our heritage, our lineage, our regal royal demeanor and bloodlines. And y'all think they gonna give us a book that's gonna tell us the truth after they have lied to us about everything else? That was when I said,
right.
That's when I said, you know what, God, I can't. And I remember
Mhm.
I live with mental illness, bipolar type 1, acute anxiety, and PTSD from my childhood. My mother was on drugs. My father and my mother were both mentally ill. They passed it to me and my siblings. But I remember being in college, and I remember I was in college in 2000, and I remember losing my shit on that campus. And the spiral happened because I was the leader of the gospel choir and keynote speaker for the university. And I was the youngest director to ever be director at that college. It didn't usually go to a freshman, but because of my anointing, it came to me. And I remember the I went to school, high school. I lived in the suburbs. I started in the city in the projects. My grandmother went to school, became a teacher, master's degree, moved me and my siblings to the suburbs. So I had a better experience from 5th grade all the way up until college. So I had a few friends in high school that were African American, but I call myself wanting more of an African American experience. And I didn't choose an HBCU. I just chose, I'm in Pennsylvania. I chose a state school, but I chose a state school with more Black presence. And my problem was my people. My people. It wasn't just me being gay. It was me being proper. It was me having white teeth. It was
Yeah.
me being super observant and anointed. It was me being able to sing. It was me being able to know what to say. It
Yeah.
just was not conducive.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all I'm saying is that your organization is going to flourish because every last one of us had to deviate from what we were taught
Mhm.
to live, to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
You talk about suicide. I was there too. I was there
Yeah.
too. Most of us were. Some were successful, some were not. Thank God
Yeah.
I wasn't successful. Thank God you weren't successful. We wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
Yeah.
But that right there plagues our community.
Mhm.
It plagues us.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's so crazy because, even my grandmother's a devout Christian. But her and we used to argue like crazy because she didn't understand what I was doing.
Mhm.
She didn't understand it. And
Yeah.
I told her it wasn't for her to understand. Either she
Right.
was going to back me or she wasn't. And she
Yeah.
backed me. She backed me
Wonderful.
because she saw that I was very adamant about my self-actualization. I knew who the hell I was.
Yeah.
And now mind you, all of her children, my uncles and aunts, they're all gay and lesbian on my mother's side, all of them.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was, but they were indoctrinated. They were living to ignore themselves and deny
Mhm.
who they were. And I was like, I'm not living like that.
Mhm.
So I too found myself homeless at 19 with
Mhm.
3 mental health diagnoses. And, you know, what I want the heterosexual community to understand is when you put a child out of the house who is newly 18, or 15, or 12. I've had children I've had to deal with that were 12 and be put out. When you do that and this child has no prior knowledge or experience of the streets or the way that the world works, you're sending them to their death.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And by some hook or crook, they manage to survive. And then when they survive and they come back to face you, you don't think God had anything to do with that? You don't think God kept them alive? And that in finding out who they were, they managed to navigate the world without you. You don't think God had anything to do with that? It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And a lot of us have sorted relationships with our families. I've counseled and mentored grown men who were older than me. I'm 39. I'll be 40 this year. I've counseled men that cried like babies at the thought of their family and what they thought. And, because we as people, we as human beings, we're meant to be connected.
Yeah.
So when you ostracize and shun us, that is a punishment. that will cause dementia or all
Mm,
kinds of other things that will lead a young man to his death.
right, right.
So I didn't even want to go that way, but the divine started speaking to me. So I just had to say what he was saying to me. But it's quite interesting that they don't think that our anointings work out here.
Yeah,
If anything, my anointing works more out here than it does in church.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Same.
Yeah,
Same. Yeah.
absolutely. Unequivocally. I do
I,
more. Go ahead. I do
I
more
was
out
gonna say,
here.
I admire you so much. I can see and hear that you do allow God to speak through you, and when you're speaking about certain experiences, and even questioning. I love that you even brought the conversation up of, like, the fact that Christianity for many of us was not our ancestral religion. It was not our ancestral belief, but
Mhm.
we hold to it so wholeheartedly. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that historically our ancestors were beaten. They were
Yeah.
made to change their names, and they were also the only safe place that they were offered was church.
Yep.
And when people look at the history of folks like Nat Turner,
Yeah.
um, religion was used to subjugate us. It
Yeah.
was used to tell us who we have to be and who we cannot be as
Mhm.
rebels, as deviants. It was used to tell us to stop running away from our pain, and stop being enraged at the things that were being dealt wrong to us. And
Mhm.
so even sometimes I look at our Black community as a whole today, and I am not by any means a pacifist.
Mhm.
I believe that if a Black uh, if a Black body is slain, burn the fucking city to the ground. I
Yep.
don't give a damn about the business. Nobody gets to go to work today.
Nope.
No, because God knows if that was my baby,
Yep.
fuck all this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why I don't hold my tongue. So please excuse me,
No, I'm glad because I don't hold
up
mine. For 6 years, you know me. I don't hold mine.
yeah,
I don't hold mine, especially about what we're talking about right now. Because get this, our community is still holding to those ideals today. And I'm gonna bring this one point up because the divines was speaking to me even as you were speaking. You mentioned it. The only safe place was church. They were taught not to run away. Oh no, it's your place. It's your penance. And it went even further. If you endure this life, be a good slave, be a good mandingo, impregnate all these women, and have no responsibility like an animal. Then when you die, you will have a beautiful place to go to.
over there in heaven.
Let me tell you something, heaven and hell is here. We are,
Absolutely.
we are our own heaven and
Every
we
day.
are our own hell every
Mhm.
day.
Every day.
Nobody knows what's
Yeah.
going on after this because ain't nobody came back to tell us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna say that. It was some wise person told me that God gave us every emotion that we have for a reason, and that includes, it's funny, the Bible even talks about David being a man after his own heart, and David led so many wars and
Mm-hmm.
did so many things that we would look at today and call and say they were atrocious acts.
Mm-hmm.
God also gave us as Black folks that emotion of rage.
Mm-hmm.
And the shame to me is that we would be pacified, and that we would be, by a system that is so unjust to us,
Yeah.
that we would wait for a permit to protest
Yeah.
versus getting out there and saying, no, enough is enough. And
Yeah.
and I believe, I'm a firm believer that all Black lives matter.
Yeah.
I believe that we need to be out there in the streets for every trans woman who's slain, for every Black boy and Black girl who is slain, because enough is enough.
Yeah.
And that is the only way to restore our humanity sometimes, is by scaring the fuck out of these cishet white folks. Like, they need to know that, like, no, if you kill one of ours,
Yeah.
you're losing quite a few of yours. You can't go back to business as usual. Your shit's burning to the ground. And if COVID if this pandemic taught us nothing else, it is that what impacts the least of us impacts all of us. That is the reality of humanity. That is the reality of this heaven or hell that we live in. But it is unfortunate, slavery and racism, even things like homophobia and transphobia, they are diseases to the entire humanity. And until we recognize that, we're really not going to get to the reckoning that we're supposed to. Until we recognize that white people are also sick in their lack of recognizing our humanity. It's not just Black people and their lack of awareness for what they're worth and their self-worth and their self-love, but it's also white folks not realizing how, and we see it, and we're in these instances, and we're like, and they're shaking and crying suddenly, talking about it was an accident, they didn't know what they were doing. Like there's a huge mental dissonance and disability that white folks endure every day in this society and need to be fucking taught right. But I do once again believe that it begins with us knowing our worth and self first. Like I don't expend much of my energy telling people why we deserve to live. Right. I'm just going to let you know that if you take one of mine, you go on next. Like that's how this works. Like I'm going to spend my time and energy celebrating this life that God gave us, celebrating our beauty and every curve in our bodies and in our variety and our differences. We make so much beautiful culture and music and dance. God gave us so much. And if folks continue to be so jealous of what God gave us naturally, fuck them, fuck off. And I believe in a very radical self-love. Mm-hmm. And that includes also that rage. I think that our culture needs to get back to understanding that also when you feel that inside of you, when you're angry, that is also God. Yeah. God is not just how we want to paint God and how white folks have taught us God is in the Bible, this pretty picture that is always going to be nice and kind and loving and comforting. God is also war and fighting for your life. And God is also, if nothing else, what does love do when it's upset? What does a mother's love do for her child when she's protecting it?
Crimes of passion.
Mm-hmm, that is also God. Mm-hmm. It's crazy that we're so used to limiting the experience of God. But I believe that the more we think about these things more objectively and not subjected to what we've been taught our entire lives, we can really get to this place of freedom. And that's what I'm really invested in. This idea of Black and brown folks being free.
I was looking at something the other day, and for the first time in my life, I was afraid. I grew up with white people. I have white friends, allies. But what scared me was the way that they see us. The way that they really feel that we are savages, animals. And I remember watching CNN, a white man said, "You think they're savages? You murdered him. You made him sleep with his sister, his brother, his mother. You did all of these things. Mm-hmm. You took millions of them, and you called them savages?"
Right.
It made me afraid because I just was like, it made me think. I really, for a second, was like, this isn't going to get better.
Not by asking.
Exactly. And it's like, and I kept thinking to myself, I said, God, please, no civil war. But that's what's coming. And Caucasians know this. That's why the moment they see an irate Black man, 15 cops show up. Mm-hmm. It's this whole black buck idea. Mm-hmm. I was listening to Conscious Lee talk about the black buck. He's a muscular, now look at this, a tall, muscular man that cannot be controlled and has violent tendencies. That's the black buck. And they believe that they have to subdue the black buck.
Yeah.
That's in the gay community, that's all of us.
Right.
Listen, we work out, we're fit, we got tempers because we're sick and tired of everybody calling us faggots.
Right.
That's all of us.
Yeah.
That description fits us all. Mm-hmm. But
you are so wise. I'm looking forward.
I've had a lot of experiences that weren't good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to us having so many more conversations.
Mhm.
I even what you just said um, about the baselessness of white people's fear
Yeah.
of Black and brown folks. Like this, it's completely contrived through white media.
Yeah.
But for folks to say that they're afraid of us when y'all had generations of raping us,
Yeah.
of beating us in slavery, and still incarcerating us to this day and killing our brothers and sisters on a daily basis. But you're afraid of us.
But
It's,
get this. Let me interject. I couldn't do what I do right now if I was signed to a record label.
yeah,
I couldn't do what I do right now if I was signed to a modeling agency. I couldn't do what I do right now if I was an actor. And I'll tell you why. Because that's still slavery.
hmm
That's still a bunch of white people telling a Black person how to run their career, how to look, how to jump, how to sing.
yeah,
I couldn't be authentic
yeah,
and go and do that.
yeah,
And at first, in my early career, I'm up there and it's all falling in place and it's going well. And then something happens and it just falls apart. And God says, no, no. And I'm mad with God and I'm fighting with him like, yes, this is going to be, you can't stop this. And he's
mm,
like, yes, I can. No, no, no. All of my 20s, no. Only for me to get into my 30s. And they're like, come on. And
yeah,
he'd say, I'm going to make you an entrepreneur.
yeah.
You can't free people if
Mm.
you are not indeed free yourself.
Amen to
This
that.
is not
Amen.
about a college degree. This is
Right,
not about, this is about do what I did, not do what I say.
right, right.
And that's where I am. That is what I offer. That's my brand. Do what I did because I went through this. I went through the rape. I went through the molestation. I went through the physical abuse. I did this. I did this. I did this. How did you get here? I did this. You
Mhm.
know, like I was one of the few people on Instagram where I didn't apply for my blue check. I didn't pay for my blue check.
Mhm.
I was literally in 1 year in 2018, I had 21 million likes when likes were the thing. They
Mhm.
verified me.
I know that's right.
So I didn't, but I say that because you have to understand there's a protocol to these things. Most of these people around here, they have PR people and they have this and they have that and they have this. I just have God.
I know that's right.
And literally, he puts me in atmospheres in arenas
Mhm.
without a degree,
Yeah.
without the proper credentials. But when I open my mouth, the shaman comes out. And they
Hallelujah.
know, okay, we don't know where she came from. We don't know her. We didn't see her papers, but she belongs in this room.
Absolutely.
And that is how I live. But I could not, you could not speak freedom to our people, Black and brown, even
Mhm.
queer, even straight. You
Mhm.
couldn't speak it if
We're not for yourself.
you gotta be free.
Give me 1 second. I just want to grab my charger for my
No
laptop.
problem. No
All right.
problem.
See me leaving the room.
No
All right. Back in action.
Mhm.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. And you know what? The funny thing about me is people said it to me too. You're so fast. You work so fast. It's because I don't edit these.
Okay. That was actually going to be a question of mine. I'm like, we've
No,
talked about so much rich content.
no.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
say what you want to say. I say what I want to say. I don't edit these. And so many people are being touched, moved, and inspired and healed because
Yeah.
I leave it as it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm excited. I'm excited for this. This has been such a endearing and important conversation. Um, just because I know I can talk to you about this, that's why we want to go here too.
Yep.
Because you kind of touched on it, right? Like, who were we as a people before we had these puppet masters of white
Yeah.
folks in society that we don't even see anymore, right?
Right.
Um, I travel often. My day job before I became an entrepreneur was as a flight attendant.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gone to so many places, particularly in South America.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen all these pyramids and I've seen all these hieroglyphs that
Yeah.
have folks at the very top of their social systems that, you know, their skin color is like yours and mine.
Yep.
And even shit, I even been to Rome, Italy, and seen the Colosseums. And you see that, you know, today a lot of these places, these monuments are like knocked down, and you
Yeah.
see the catastrophes that were dealt to them. But I'm gonna tell you, it's still something to see them, because
Yep.
what comes to my mind is like, how marvelous of a people were we and are we and just don't know it.
Yeah.
Before white folks came along and colonized this entire world.
Yeah.
I don't think that folks really understand the impact of colonialism when it happened. When
Yeah.
you had white folks going around the world with this cowardice gunpowder
Right.
and subjugating entire, you know, countries of people who were living freely, who had mounds of riches, who had different values, their own cultures and beliefs. You know, I went and looked at the Sun and Moon Pyramid in
Mm.
Mexico City, and these things are built so high in the sky. The steps themselves are larger, are taller than I am, and I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
And I'm like, how the
Yeah.
hell did people before, you know,
Industrialization. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
The
you
Industrial Revolution. They out here building these things. Mm-hmm.
it'll blow your mind to see these things, but it'll also help you realize that we as people are so much more than we are led to and allowed to believe in this society. We come from some great, marvelous people, and we still are that. It is within us. But to get back there, we have got to do a bunch of unlearning. We've got to do a bunch of disconnecting from these systems, these powers that be, that, you know, want to just, you know, put us on strings and really tell the story they want to be told. So I'm yeah, listening to you. I'm like, oh, you know what you're talking about.
Listen. When the divine signed the deed for my career, because I didn't think I was going to have one, he mapped it out and he told me, and I saw him do it. He told me, he said, listen, you ain't going to win no Grammy. You ain't going to win no Oscar. You ain't going to win no Emmy. And that's fine. He said, but you will be very successful. You will want for nothing. He said, but you will always live outside of the construct that they have constructed, because you are free. See, some people ask God for this and ask God for that. As a child being born in the ghetto, having his mother do drugs, his father do drugs, being raped and molested and bullied and beaten up by his own, God asked me as a child, what do you want? And I told him I wanted to be free. That was my request. And everything that I do, he has me do it on my own. On my own. I am now in the stage where I go, because COVID has finally decided to let up. I just recovered from that. But I go, and even when I speak, you're contracting me. You see? It's different. It's different. I don't work for the company. You're bringing me in. You're outsourcing your work. You're bringing me in.
Right.
And it's so sad, because when I started my business, before I even started it a couple of years ago, God told me, he said, I have to get rid of consumerism in you. He said, you have a consumer mentality, and I have to kill that. Literally, that's what he said. I have to kill that and replace it with an entrepreneurial mentality.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. The way out for our people is to start our own businesses. Absolutely. And we need to patronize each other. But the thing is, even as you were speaking, we have been turned on ourselves. our
Mhm.
own people. Like you said, I believe in the lives of every person. I spoke about Black Lives Matter, but very briefly. And they asked me for a comment. Why won't you speak about Black Lives Matter? I said, because quite frankly, I don't want to be on the line with my straight brothers, help them fight. And then after the fight is over, they kill me.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
There's a lot wrong internally in the system, our
Mhm.
system. And I always used to get overwhelmed because I'm like, how do I change that? How do I change that? God said to me, you don't need to change that. Your presence will.
Mhm.
Your
Yep.
presence.
Yeah.
You go and you speak
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
will change. I had to break up with my entire Instagram following. I had to let them, I said, listen here, I bought this. I bought these. I bought this. Y'all didn't give me not one dime for 6 years. I said,
Mhm.
so y'all have to excuse me, but now I need paying customers. Y'all are all in these front row seats and I need y'all to get up so that paying customers can get in these seats.
Yeah.
Even now, I'm preparing to move to Europe
Yeah.
because that's where I belong. I got to go at 22. I was modeling in Paris for 6 months and I left my heart there. It's where
Mhm.
I belong. But I'm not stupid. And I understand that anytime a Black man gets ahead anywhere on this planet, it's
Mhm.
going to raise Caucasian alarm.
Mhm.
So you can't escape it. Because I even saw in Paris, they accepted me because I was an American, but they were dead wrong to my African brothers coming straight off the boat.
Mhm.
They were dead wrong to my African sisters coming right off the boat from Africa. It was
Yeah.
like they didn't want them there.
Mhm.
And then it was supposed to be a badge of honor for me to be an American Black.
Right.
They like,
Right.
and it's so crazy in Europe because they ask you, what are you? Here we say I'm African American. Here we have, and you know this because you've traveled. Here we have, these constructs. You got to check the box. I'm Black or Native American or Latino, Latina. Over there, what's your nationality? You don't say I'm
Mhm.
Black. You say I'm American.
Mhm. Right.
That's what they know you as. Like
Yeah.
I'm American. Oh, good. I'm German.
Mhm.
And their German can be Black, it can be white, it can be Hispanic, it can be Asian.
Yeah.
They're German.
Mhm.
But over here, oh no, you're not. No, you're African American.
Right. Right.
I'm sick and tired of these constructs, so I've decided to construct a few of my own.
I know that's right.
That's all.
Yeah.
I've decided to construct a few of my own. And my thing is, see, being a shaman, I can protect myself.
Mhm.
I can protect myself. They don't want it with me. I have a real relationship with God. You will drop where you stand trying to come at me. The very breath will leave out of your body trying to charge me. That's the kind of relationship I have with God because he sent me here to do this. And he's not going to let anything or anyone get in my way or harm me and stop me from doing what I was sent here to do. So
That's
I
it.
understand your hostility when you say we need to be, you're going to lose. No, baby, the powers that the African American community possess, we wouldn't even have to touch them.
Right. Right.
We wouldn't even have to
We,
touch them.
yeah. We just gotta know and believe that we're worth it. We gotta know and
Like you said, a lot
Mhm.
of unlearning. You got to get those mental blocks out. You got to get that indoctrination out. You got to get that programming out so that you
Mhm.
can reset the computer back to its original program.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We have had a serious conversation.
This has been such an awesome
I
conversation.
know. I'm like, oh my God. Ooh. And it's gonna go up in 10 minutes. Listen, I don't edit anything. It's that quick. And
All right, cool.
you will get your copy. I send through my Google Drive for you to do whatever you want with it because we created it together. You own it and I own it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Give
Yeah.
me 3 words after that kind of conversation. Give me 3 words that empower and inspire you.
3 words that empower and inspire me. I think of liberation as the first one to come to mind.
Naturally.
Yeah, that idea of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people really understand what it means. You know, they
Mm.
think about because this country has a history of physical enslavement,
Yeah.
um, we don't think about all the ways in which we're not free.
Yeah.
I'm reading a book right now, and it talked about just how structured the society is, that it tells us both how to dress, but also how our home should look.
Yeah.
And I think about, how structured our lives are.
Yeah.
And it's literally telling us what colors, we're supposed to wear. And when I think about liberty, I'm just like, ooh, that idea of freedom is like, no, I wake up in the morning, I talk to God about
Yep.
how I feel today,
Yep.
what I'm going to put on my body,
Yep.
what maybe I would construct for my body or what not.
Yeah.
It's going to make me feel empowered and sexy and
Yep.
vibrant and good as I walk out of my home today. And also as I turn back and look at my home,
Yep.
it's going to be something that's actually reminiscent of me,
Mm-hmm.
of what I built.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's not the reality of existing right now. And I can't wait for more Black and brown queer people, very specifically, to experience liberty.
It's coming. That's what's happening right now. That's why all of this is happening. It's coming. The time frame that God has ordained is coming, and that's why they can't stop it.
Yeah, we're certainly in the midst of an awakening, in the midst of a renaissance, and I'm excited for it.
Yep. Two more words.
Two more words. I'm gonna say prosperity, because it encapsulates ideas beyond capitalism in my mind. Can't stand the notion of capitalism, but I do love the idea of health and wellness.
Yeah.
Knowing that there is plenty.
Yeah.
I think I read this book, books like this one read called The Ethical Slut, which reminds us of the fact that we've been indoctrinated with the idea of starvation economies. We always think there's so little, and so that's why we get jealous. If you're non-monogamous, we get jealous because we're like, oh God, no, you got to be mine. If you're not mine, then you're going to leave me. And that everything from love to money to resources, we think there's so little of it, but we don't realize that God has actually given so much. And prosperity, when I think about our health, when I think about mental wellness, and just even the prosperity that provides peace and just a sanctity of self, and prosperity just means so much to me. I often think about the scripture that says that God leads me in green pastures beside still waters, and I often think about prosperity with that, because those green pastures represent provision. And those waters represent peace. Yeah. Like prosperity is not just one thing. It is just like this knowing that, no, I have everything God intends for me to have. And lastly, before you go, lastly, I want to share something with you that the divine shared with me, and I shared it on my podcast. Capitalist society says you've got to make it to the mountaintop. The divine taught me, if you go to the mountaintop, the air is thin, you'll have trouble breathing. Number one, because of the elevation. See, he built this planet. He's very into it. So you'll have trouble breathing. The elevation will make you woozy. Then you get to the mountaintop. You can only stand there for so long. And only a few people can stand there at a time. Right. And then when you look down, you realize, and this is what God said to me, it's not about the mountaintop. The mountains are beautiful. It's the valley where all the provision is. The water, the food, the wood, the fire, everything is in the valley. They keep trying to make you go to the mountaintop, but there's no provision up there. Yeah. There's not even a place to stand, and you're going to pass out because of the altitude. The provision is where you left. It's like I read the book, The Alchemist. He went all around the world to find out the diamonds and the jewels was buried in his backyard. He went all over searching, and he had some, now mind you, he had some amazing experiences, ate with kings and did all of this great stuff, but he was still trying to get his.
And
Mm.
and I'm gonna just say this, I see so many young Black men do that. One enlightened Black man comes up, and then he's got all these young men that he mentors because they want what he has. But he's the only one that really has it. And he doesn't really tell them all how to do what he did.
Right, right.
But the
Yeah,
provision is in the valley. You want to live in the valley. The
yeah,
trees, everything you need is there. Stop trying to go up to the mountain. Live in the valley. Live in the valley.
yeah.
Last word.
Last word. I get so caught up when you start speaking. I'm a visual
That's that
person.
shaman.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm a visual person, and you go there with the metaphors, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this all makes so much sense. So
I
you,
can sell ice to an Eskimo.
I'm buying. So you inspired this last word. When you were talking about the valley, I was thinking about community, but
Yeah.
the last word is actually for me is going to be love,
Yeah.
and from the sense of it begins with self.
Yes.
It begins with knowing that we're worthy.
Yes.
Love can also be inspired by looking at those whom we love in
Yes.
partnership and realizing that they're worthy of the world.
Yes.
And love also in this valley, when true power comes from empathy and realizing that we are so much stronger as a community.
Yeah.
That we are all worthy of love, that we don't have to live in a starvation economy. There's plenty for all of us.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be striving and achieving towards this mountaintop, because we're already there if we recognize the prosperity of the love within us, between us. It's such a richness, and I know that sounds probably very whimsical to some people to say the word love, but love is such a strong, enduring, deep, evolutionary thing that I do think is lacking, unfortunately, so much in our society right now, especially. I looked at this is going to be so weird to say, but it was really Trump rising to presidency that inspired me to do so much more. At one point, I was comfortable in society. Everything was fine. I was like, oh, Obama's president. Life is moving slow. Progress is coming slow, but it's coming. It's coming. And when Trump became president, I looked at him as an agent of hate.
Yes.
An agent.
We all did.
Yeah, he was every ism and phobia, and in the book, racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobic, he was just it. And I was like, oh my God, he opened his mouth though and was able to move that spiritually in all these people enough that they voted him into power.
Half the country.
And when that happened, I felt an urgency inside of me. Yeah. And I was like, it's not enough to be a good person. It's not enough. We have got to be agents of love. We have got to be active in the way that we love, in the way that we empathize. Empathy is not just me saying, oh, I care about you. Yeah. Oh, I feel your hurt. I feel your pain. When we talk to white allies, when we talk to straight allies, no, don't feel my pain. No. Stand in front of me. Yeah. Make certain it doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. It's not enough to just be non-racist, non-homophobic. No, understand how your words every day impact my life. Yeah. And let me understand from a place of privilege too, how my words and what places I have access to impact other people's lives who don't have that same access. Yeah. That's how love works. Yeah. And I realized not until we get there does this valley really work. Do we realize the plentiful provision that we have to succeed, to thrive, to live with one another, for one another. We could own our blocks if we stopped giving away all of our money to consumerism, as you said before. Yeah. We could have and did have at periods of time communes of Black and brown people taking care of one another, growing our own crops. Yeah. There is so much, and I think as I look back at what happened after the pandemic, there is so much that the powers that be were afraid of as people were stopping work.
Yeah.
They were like, wait a minute, they get comfortable staying home and
Yep.
they're going to think for themselves. They're
More
going to,
businesses got launched than ever before because people now had they took the blinders off. It was no longer the rat race. They had a moment to think, this is my moment to get out of capitalism. I'll start my business now.
yeah, yeah. What happens when you tell a person in our society to rest,
Yep.
to
They
be still,
replenish.
yeah,
They
to be still,
replenish. Yeah, to
be,
be still. They start thinking.
yeah, and start hearing
Yeah.
from something within them. No
Yep.
more, not no longer in a club, and not speaking even against our own parties, but no longer in a club with loud banging music and dark dim lights. Like no, like now you're forced to like real
Live your
connection.
life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
really think like, and what I love is you're forced to connect with you. Because see, people keep looking up. They keep looking for God. He's not up there, baby. He's not up there. He's in here.
The Bible always talks about that still,
Yeah.
what is it? A still, calm, still quiet voice.
Listen, that's them. Listen, that's them Christians, because God don't talk to me in no still calm voice.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've had God say, now listen here, bitch. You're gonna do this, you gonna do that, you gonna do this, you're not gonna do that. And I'm like, okay, like he talks to me how I speak.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that is because it's the God in me.
Absolutely.
The God in me. So of
Absolutely.
course I hear my voice.
Come on,
That's
Mary.
the voice I'm most comfortable with.
Yeah,
It's the voice I'm most comfortable with. If I hear somebody else's voice in my head, I'm gonna be freaked out. It's the voice
right.
I'm most comfortable with. Yes, it's the voice I'm most comfortable with. I hear mine. And he says, no, baby, you don't want to do that. No, bitch, you don't want to do that. I remember last year, was it last year? Might have been last year. The year before, I was suicidal because during the pandemic, like I said, I wasn't making any money and I had just started to mentor. And my company, my first LLC, I had to disillusion. So it went out of business. I was so suicidal. I wanted to get into bed. I wanted to take all my medicine and just go to sleep and never wake up. And I was so close to that. I spoke to my therapist about it. I spoke to my psychiatrist about it, told my grandmother, told everybody. And they were so worried because they said, we've never, ever had you have a suicidal thought and a method. It's dangerous to have a method. So because the method, and like people like me, once you have a method and you commit your mind to something, you do it. Right. So I remember saying to God, if you want me to stay here, you're going to have to give me a reason why I should stay, because I'm not seeing what you said I would see in my life. I'm working so hard and I feel like I'm not reaping the benefits of being able to take care of myself. And God, like I said, he talked to me. He said, listen here, you trying to give me an ultimatum to tell you to keep you here. He said, I'm going to tell you why you want to leave. And he did the opposite. He told me, you feel inadequate here. You this and that. This is what you want. And you're not opening up the jar and the sphere of possibility. It could be so much more than what you want. You're upset because you want what you want now. And you don't understand that what you want is not for you. It's going to change who you are, is to be here to change lives. Do you know I've gotten so good with knowing who I am and being so connected to the divine, I don't have to open my mouth anymore. I can walk past the person and they feel it. And they're just like, and then they speak to me. Oh, you have such a good aura. Are you wearing any perfume or cologne? I say, no, I'm not. And then whole conversation. Oh, well, I do this. I'm the financier. I write grant proposals for X, Y, Z. That's how it happens.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
Because the God in us, we've got to get rid of the religion. We've got to get rid of the religion. It's so funny that this is the theme today, because in the interview before you, he said, man has been on this planet for 70,000 years. Christianity is 1,500 years old. And we think that is what we should go by. Right. 70,000 years. 1,500 years and we're going to live by this. We're going to
Right.
let them. First of all, we know that the pictures of Jesus were not even of Jesus. That was of a Roman model at that time who was very beautiful that they chose to sit for the portrait.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. So it's just like, no. What I want people to take away from our experience today is that, in our conversation, is that you and I both decided to do something about who we were and how we would live and how the world would see us. And we are not going to go quietly into the night. We are going to speak up for ourselves and for other people. Every time you look around, when something is unjust, you're going to hear us. And that does not make us politicians. It makes us ambassadors of true spirit and the divine. Don't worry, we're going to be out here somewhere in this world doing something to make it better.
Yep.
That's what I want them to take away from this. Two people sat here with an agenda to help.
Yeah. And
to spread love and acceptance, and not just acceptance. Tolerance is no longer acceptable. You need to love, period, like you said. Tolerating me, that's not, it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable. You have to love. And that's why I'm so transparent with my story, because they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you went through this, that, and the other. 14, 15 years ago, the government told me, because, with the mental illness, I was applying for SSI. They said, oh no, you can't have SSI because there's one job you can do. So I look at the man, the judge. He said, you can fold laundry in a laundromat. That's what he told me at my hearing for my Social Security. We're going to deny it because you can fold laundry in a laundromat. I don't even fold my own laundry now. Someone does that for me.
Yeah.
People are a mess when they want you to be small.
Yeah. God has great plans for all of us. Sure.
Yes, he does. And it's people like you that are going to help bring those plans to the awareness of the public.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you so much for taking.
I want to thank you. Thank you. This has been so fruitful. I feel spiritually filled. I'm so grateful for you, sharing this time and energy, and of course your platform with me today.
My pleasure.
This conversation is just it's remarkable. I'm so glad to know another one of us.
Yeah.
Out here existing, impacting the world around us. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the energy that you are, for radiating your light. Thank you for reaching out and making this all happen. Seriously. Yeah.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard the vocal stylings of Mr. Micah Marquez. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Don't go nowhere though.